Greetings everyone, my name is Gurleen and I'm a student of CIBOP at Immaticus Institute. So today my topic is inflation index bond and zero coupon bond. So let's discuss what are inflation index bond and zero coupon bond along with an example. So zero coupon bond is an investment in debt that does not trade at coupon but is actually traded at a deep discount. So the profit is actually redeemed at the point of maturity of bond when it is actually traded at its own face value. Bonds are called as accrual bonds. So what happens at maturity? At maturity, the bondholder is paid the amount that is equal to the face value of the bond. So the interest here is actually known as imputed interest. So what happens, like if you are investing in a zero coupon bond, what is the profit of the bondholder? So bondholder actually buys bonds at a discounted price and then gets the real face value of the bond at the time of maturity. The profit earned by the zero coupon bond is the difference between the face value and the discounted price of the bond. Okay, so let's take an example. I'm a bondholder who purchased a bond which has face value of rupees 1000. So I purchased that bond at a discounted price, for example of rupees 800. So what happens at time of maturity? At the time of maturity of the zero coupon bond, I will get rupees 1000. That is the face value of the bond. So the profit earned by me would be rupees 200. 200 is the actual difference between the face value and the discounted value of the bond. Such types of interest are actually known as imputed interest. They are known as imputed interest because they are the established interest rate, not the estimated ones. So, what are the advantages of investing in a zero coupon bond? So, the advantage is, first thing, that there is no reinvestment risk. Second is that it's very good for a long-term investment. And third is that there is always a fixed return, that is actually the face value of the bond. So now we are coming and covering up the next type of bond that was there. Now, what is inflation index bond? Inflation index bond are such bond that releases interest payment on the basis of the price index of the bond. So these bonds are generally issued at governments or corporate institutes. Inflation index bond, as the name suggests, inflation. Inflation is the rise in price of a commodity. So inflation index bond are such bonds that are there to hedge the inflation rates that are there in the economy, where the principal or the interest is actually indexed to the retail price index and inflations. So they are actually done to cut off the inflation risk in the economy. Inflation is actually bad for the profitability of any fixed income instrument. For example, I purchase a bond. I myself purchase a bond that has 3% yield. What is yield? Yield is profitability of the bond. So out of that 3%, 2% is the inflation index. So my yield would be 1%. That is 3 minus 2. So that would be 1% on real terms. That is bad for any investor investing in a fixed income instrument or living on pension. As these bonds are there to hedge the risk of inflation, again, they are less riskier. So the profit earned or the yield earned would be comparatively less than other types of bonds because it offers high sense of security. So, covering the last topic, what are the advantages of investing in an inflation index bond? As the name suggests, inflation index bond are going to hedge the risk that can arise from inflation. So again, the first is the advantage itself. Second is that it helps in infrastructure and growth. Third, they are very less risky and less volatile in nature. They can be in more liquid form also. They also help in growth of infrastructure in the economy. And the most important point is during the time of deflation, means when the price of the commodities decrease, that is reverse of inflation. So at the time of deflation, the bond yield, the bond holder is actually able to get the bond at its own face value. And again, the last point is that these bonds can also be redeemed prematurely. So thank you so much for giving your precious time and listening to these two types of bonds. Hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.